This happened to me last Christmas, and I still can't shake the feeling that I got way too lucky to be sitting here telling you about it now. We had just arrived to this little cabin rental on the edge of the White Mountains in New Hampshire. It was me, my wife Sarah, and our 2 kids, Mia, who's 8, and Jack, who is 5. It was supposed to be our perfect holiday getaway. Pure white snow, hot cocoa, the whole thing. But a couple days before Christmas Eve, everyone but me came down with some nasty flu bug. Sarah was wiped out on the couch. The kids were bundled in bed with fevers, and the cabin felt more like a sick ward than a winter wonderland. We didn't have a Christmas tree yet. Sarah had suggested just grabbing one from the pop-up lot in town. It was easy, pre-cut, and no fuss, but I'm stubborn like that. I grew up hearing my old man talk about real men chop their own. And with the woods literally starting in our backyard, I figured this was my chance to make it a story for the kids. Pride, right? I told Sarah I'd be back in an hour, 2 tops. I kissed her on her forehead, bundled up in my parka, grabbed the axe from the shed, and headed out just after lunch. The sun was still high, snow crunching under my boots. Everything was peaceful. The woods were thicker than I expected, dense pines and firs that blocked out the light fairly quickly. I hiked maybe a half mile in, following what looked like an old logging trail blanketed in fresh powder. No tracks except mine and some deer prints. I found the perfect tree about 20 minutes later. It was about 7 foot tall. It stood up straight and had full branches. It looked like the Christmas tree from every Christmas commercial I've ever seen. I set down my pack and picked up my axe. I looked up at the clear blue sky and tried to appreciate the moment. The air was crisp. The birds were quiet. Too quiet, maybe, but I chalked it up to the cold. The first swing of the axe bit deep. The second one, too. I was maybe halfway through when I heard it. A branch snap. It was sharp and close, like someone stepping wrong in the snow. I stopped, mid-swing. I listened. Nothing. But the woods play tricks, I told myself, so I kept chopping. Then there was another snap. This one further away, and to my left. I spun around and scanned the trees. Snow falling lightly now. Visibility dropping. "Hello," I called out. I felt pretty stupid. There was no answer. It was probably a deer or a fox shaking off the snow. I got back to it. I was moving a little faster now, wanting to get finished and get home. The tree groaned as it started to lean. That's when I saw the boot print. It wasn't mine. My tread was rugged, clearly made to grip. This one was smooth, like cheap work boots, though the print itself was bigger than mine. This was half buried in the drift about 30 feet away, pointing right at me. Though I could tell it was fresh, the snow hadn't filled it in yet. My heartbeat skipped. I yelled again, "Who's out there? This is private land." It was a lie, but whatever. There was still no response. I grabbed the axe tighter and finished cutting down the tree. The tree toppled with a big whoosh, needles spreading everywhere. Now I had to drag it back. I tied a rope around the base, shouldered my pack, and started hauling the tree. The thing was heavier than I would have thought. Branches catching on roots, snow sticking to it. Every few steps I'd stop and listen, and every time I'd hear it, another snap or a rustle, just out of sight. I tried to pick up the pace. My breath was fogging hard. I glanced over my shoulder, but there was nothing. But then, clear as day, a shadow moved between 2 trunks, maybe 50 yards behind me. It was tall, bulky, and gone before I could get a good look at it. Panic started to set in. I wasn't imagining this. Someone was following me. Heading towards me, but keeping their distance. Was it a poacher? Maybe a hunter? Some drifter living rough out here? My mind raced to something even worse. Escaped convict, or just some psycho who saw an opportunity. The trail started to head uphill now, so it became harder to drag the tree. I tripped once, my face planted in the snow, and when I got up, I saw even more shoe prints, parallel to mine, off to the side, almost like someone was flanking me. I dropped the rope. My axe was ready. I shouted at the threat that I knew was there, though I couldn't see it. "I see your tracks. You better back off. I've got a phone and I'm calling the cops." It was a bluff. The signal was crap out here. There was no answer, but the rustling stopped. I waited. The axe was shaking in my hands, and the minutes ticked by. The snow kept falling. It was thicker now. Finally, I grabbed the rope and I bolted, dragging that damn tree like my life depended on it, which maybe it did. The cabin lights appeared through the trees maybe 15 minutes later. I burst into the clearing. I slammed through the back door and locked it behind me. Sarah looked up from the couch, pale and confused. She asked, "What happened? You're as white as a ghost." I told her everything, the axe still in my hand. We called the sheriff, but it took them about a half hour to get out to the cabin. A deputy took my statement and walked the edge of the woods with a flashlight. He found the parallel tracks all right, leading right up to the property line, but then veering off into the deeper forest. They were big boots, a men's size 12 or 13. There was no sign of anyone, though. They patrolled the area for a couple hours, but nothing. No other reports of suspicious activity, no break-ins, just some guy out there watching me chop a tree, deciding to play games. Our little family has this Christmas Eve tradition. The kids are allowed to open one present early, and then we do the whole milk and cookies thing. After that, we pile into the minivan in our pajamas, crank up the Christmas music, and drive a big loop to look at all the Christmas lights in the rich neighborhoods north of Boise. It's a 20-mile circle, maybe about 15 different streets that absolutely go nuts with decorations. The kids, Amy who's 9 and Ethan who's 7, usually fall asleep about halfway through. My wife Jess and I just enjoy the ride, holding hands over the console and enjoying the likes of Burl Ives and Bing Crosby. It's my favorite night of the year. Last year, the snow was coming down perfect. Big, beautiful snowflakes that caught the headlights like we were driving through a snow globe. We left the house around 9:45. Later than usual because Ethan threw a fit about leaving the new Lego set that he had just opened. Everything was perfect until we hit the back half of the loop. There's this one stretch along County Road 12 where the houses thin out a bit and it's just empty fields on both sides. There's no streetlights. There's nothing but snow and darkness between the two subdivisions. That's when I noticed the vehicle behind us for the first time. It was an older red Ford pickup, rust around the wheel wells, one headlight a little dimmer than the other. It was hanging back about maybe 200 yards, but every turn I made onto the next decorated street, it made the same turn. At first I didn't think too much of it. It's holiday traffic, right? People doing the same loop that we were doing. But after about the 4th or 5th identical turn, Jess noticed as well. She turned the music down and said, "That red truck has been with us since the Canyon Ridge Estates." I glanced up into the mirror. Yep, it's the same truck at about the same distance. I sped up a little bit on the next straightaway. He sped up as well. Then I slowed way down to let him pass, but he dropped back even further, almost disappearing into the snow, but he never turned off. My stomach started doing a little flip. The kids were both out cold in the back, blankets tucked under their chins. Jess whispered, "Take a different road, see what he does." So I did. Instead of turning left towards Evergreen Lane, the obvious next street in the loop, I went right onto a narrow county road that I've only used once before. It was plowed, but barely. Nothing but frozen potato fields on both sides. The red truck followed. Now my heart's really going. I took another quick right, then a left, putting us on roads that looped back towards civilization, but added about 10 miles. Every single turn, those dim headlights stayed with us. Jess was gripping my arm hard enough to leave marks. "He's following us," she said. Her voice was now shaking. "He's waiting for us to be alone." We were alone, miles from any house now. Cell service was spotty out here. I only had 2 bars, Then one, then none. I decided to force it. There's this old dirt road that dead ends at a barn about 3 miles off the main drag. Nobody uses it in the winter. I turned into it fast, tires sliding a little bit out on the fresh snow. The red truck followed, and now he closed the gap, maybe down to 100 yards. I kept going until the road just stopped. There was a chain across the barn entrance. There was a big "no trespassing" sign half buried into the snowdrift. I had to brake hard. The van slid a little bit, and it stopped sideways. The truck pulled up behind us and it killed its lights. It just sat there in the dark. I locked our doors. Jess already had called 911 and was whispering our location to the dispatcher. The kids slept through all of it. Thank God for small miracles. We waited. Snow was piling up on the windshield. 5 minutes went by, but it felt like an hour. Then the driver's door of the truck opened. A man stepped out. He was wearing a full Santa suit. The red coat, the black boots, the hat, the whole thing. Even from 50 yards, I could see the beard was big and bushy. He was carrying one of those long, heavy Maglite flashlights, the kind that cops used to use as a club. He started walking towards us. He was slow and deliberate, swinging the flashlight beam from side to side across the ditch like he was looking for something that he had lost. Jessa started to cry, though she was trying to stay as quiet as she could. I put the van into reverse. I was ready to ram him if he got too close. He stopped about 25 feet away, and he just stood there in the snow, staring through the windshield at us. The flashlight beam had crawled all over the van, over the hood, the roof, the side windows. He lingered on the kids' silhouettes in the back seat. Then he lifted the light and pointed it straight into my eyes, blinded me for about 10 seconds. That's when we heard the sirens, far away at first, then screaming closer. 2 county sheriff SUVs came flying up the road behind the truck, the lights painting everything red and blue. Santa froze for half a second. He accidentally dropped his flashlight in the snow, but he was bolting back to his truck. He jumped in and took off down the road, doing at least 60 on the ice. The deputies chased him for a while, but radioed back 10 minutes later. They had lost him in the maze of old farm roads. They took our statement right there in the snow. The truck had come back with stolen plates, registered to some guy in Nampa who'd reported it abandoned behind the strip mall 3 weeks earlier. There were no prints, as they wore gloves. No footprints leading away from the truck either. The snow was coming down fast and hard now, and it was covering everything fast. The deputies escorted all the way home. One of them quietly told me, "You're not the first call we've had about a red truck tailing families on light tours this month. You're just the first ones to call us soon enough so that we got a good look at them." I haven't slept right since. We haven't been out looking at lights anymore, and if the kids ask, I tell them that we'll watch videos online instead. But every time it snows hard at night, I stand at the window and watch the end of their driveway. Because whoever he was, he already knew exactly which route we took every year. He knew where we lived close enough to start tailing us halfway through. And he waited until we were alone. So yeah, that's why I don't do the Christmas lights anymore. It was Christmas night last year. The kind of quiet, snow-blanketed evening that feels like a postcard. Until it turns into a nightmare. My wife Mary and I had just tucked our 3-year-old daughter Lily into bed upstairs of our 3-level house on 5 acres outside of Duluth. The property was a dream when we first bought it. It was secluded, with a long, winding driveway that kept the world at bay, and no neighbors closer than a mile in any direction. We loved the privacy, the way the woods wrapped around us like a protective barrier. That night, though, it felt more like isolation. Lily had been a whirlwind all day, tearing through presents with the infectious toddler glee, her little hands sticky from candy canes and her cheeks flushed from the excitement. By 9 p.m. she was out cold, clutching her new stuffed reindeer. Mary and I had headed downstairs to the family room, where I had built a roaring fire in the stone fireplace. We dimmed all the lights except for the twinkling multicolored strands on the Christmas tree. It was casting a warm, festive glow over everything. The sliding glass door at the back overlooked our deck and the vast, dark backyard. where fresh snow had piled up like whipped cream on the evergreens. We popped in an old holiday movie, something cheesy with elves and romance, and snuggled under a blanket on the couch. We were sipping hot cocoa laced with a splash of peppermint schnapps. It was perfect, the kind of simple joy that makes you forget all the chaos of the season. At around 1 a.m., as the credits rolled and the fire had died down to embers, my phone buzzed on the coffee table. I glanced at it lazily, expecting a late Merry Christmas text from a relative. Instead, the notification read, 38 new photos added to shared album. I was confused at first. I didn't have any shared albums turned on. I had it in years. Not since a glitchy family vacation where photos kept duplicating endlessly. Mary noticed my frown. "What is it?" she asked, her voice lofty with drowsiness. "I don't know," I muttered. Unlocking the screen, the Photos app opened to a new album, titled simply, Family Time. My heart started pounding as I scrolled through the thumbnails. There were 38 pictures, all time-stamped from within the last 2 hours. It started right around when we begun the movie. Each one was taken from our backyard, peering through the sliding glass door like a voyeur's lens. The first few were distant, capturing the broad scene, the fire flickering, the tree lights reflecting off of the glass, Mary and I on the couch with our feet tangled underneath the blanket. You could even see Lily's stocking still hanging from the mantel, bulging with the last-minute treats that I had stuffed in there. But as I swiped, the images got progressively closer, like a slow zoom in on a horror film. By the 10th photo, the camera had crossed the deck, the angle sharpening on our faces. Mary laughing at something on the screen, then resting her head on my shoulder. The 20th photo showed details I'd missed in the moment. Half-empty mugs on the table, the remote clutched in my hand. Suddenly, the air in the room felt colder. The silence felt heavier. "Go check on Lily," I whispered. Mary leaned over and her face went pale. The final photos were the worst. The 35th was taken from just inches away from the door. The lens was fogged slightly from the warmth inside, contrasting the freezing night. And the last one? God, the last one was pressed right up against the glass. You could see the condensation from someone's breath blooming across the pane, like a ghostly exhale. In the lower corner, a gloved hand. It was black leather but nondescript. It was gripping the door handle, as if testing it. The timestamp? 12:58 a.m., just minutes before the notification. We both froze, just staring at the screen. As Mary headed up the stairs to Lily's room, I called the police. I was going room to room, flipping on every light in the house. How? How had these ended up on my phone? How did someone take them? I hadn't heard a thing outside. No footsteps of crunching in the snow, no rustle in the bushes. The backyard was pitch black beyond the deck. Whoever it was had been out there for hours, watching us, documenting our private little celebration. The cops arrived within 20 minutes, the lights from their cruisers cutting through the darkness like accusatory fingers. We showed them the photos, and they bundled up to check outside. Their flashlights swept through the yard, revealing fresh tracks in the snow. Boot prints started from the tree line, about 100 yards back, weaving towards the deck. They circled the house twice, once clockwise, one counterclockwise, as if the intruder had methodically been checking every window and every door. Then bizarrely, the tracks just stopped at the edge of the woods. No continuation, no sign of vehicle or snowmobile. It was like the person had just vanished into thin air, or stepped off the planet entirely. One of the officers found something snagged on a low branch about 50 yards into the trees. It was a cheap red Santa hat, the kind you get from the dollar store. It was frayed, with a white pom-pom matted from the snow, but no tags, no identifying marks. It could be a prank, he said, bagging it as evidence. Kids maybe, or maybe someone was homeless and looking for warmth, but his eyes didn't match his words. He knew as well as we did that this was calculated and invasive. They dusted the door handle for prints, but there was nothing usable, just smudges from the gloves. No forced entry, no damage. We spent the rest of the night wide awake, huddled upstairs with Lily, who thankfully slept through it all. The next day, I went into overdrive. I replaced every lock with heavy-duty deadbolts, installed a motion sensor floodlight that could turn night into day, and set up a full security camera system with night vision and app alerts. We even got a dog, a big 2-year-old German Shepherd named Max. The police report went cold after a few weeks. There were no more leads, no similar incidents in the area, and nothing has happened since. There was no more photos, no strange noises, no tracks in the fresh snowfalls. Life crept back to normal, or as normal as it could be when you're constantly glancing over your shoulder. But the questions linger, gnawing at me in the quiet moments. Who was it? A stranger? Someone we know? Hiding behind that Santa hat like a twisted holiday joke. And the biggest one? How did they upload the photos to my phone? And why? Why announce the fact that you were there? The cops suggested malware. Maybe just a phishing email or a compromised app. I factory reset the device and changed all my passwords. I enabled every security feature Apple offers, but deep down, I wonder if it was something more personal. Had they hacked our Wi-Fi from the woods? Or worse, had they been inside the house before? Did they plant something? Now, every night when I plug in my phone to charge, I triple-check the Photos app. There's never new albums and no expected notifications. I scroll through our family's pictures sometimes, though, the real ones. Lily's first steps, our wedding day, last year's summer vacation. And I try to reclaim that sense of safety. But then I remember those 38 images, each one a stolen slice of our Christmas, zoomed in like a predator closing in on prey. Whoever it was, they didn't just watch us, they made sure we knew. And somewhere out there, in the shadow of those woods, they might have copies of their own.